Hello, my name is Michael Essen, and I'm excited to bring another video to you. And this is because a lot of persons have reached out to me that are still having issues with trading crash and boom. Of course, that doesn't mean that the previous videos I did as not working. The challenge with your inconsistency or your losses or what is bringing about your losses is as a result of your asset distractions. Some of you are not willing to stay on one asset for a period of time. I have this understanding that if you put all your energy, all your observation, all your study on one or two asset marks, you're going to do well. But you see, nowadays, a lot of us, we don't even have the discipline of staying true to one or two assets. We are just jumping from one asset to another. We want to make a we want to make money with every asset there is. It doesn't work like that. And like I've always said, it takes a lot of discipline to be a successful trader. All right. Even if you're very good with analysis, you understand all the dynamics of the market. If you are not disciplined, you're still going to make a lot of blunders. You're going to lose money. And sometimes I want to say this: losing money is not as a result of technical ignorance. You can lose money as a result of greed. There are core professionals who still lose money. Okay, but it's better you lose money as a result of an error in your analysis or maybe an oversight in your analysis. But to lose money as a result of greed is the highest level of indiscipline. And I really hope that maybe you will take my advice. Okay, I've said this before in my enclosed mentorship group. For those of you in my mentorship group, I have said this in my several voice notes and maybe sometime personally to some of you. And I'm saying this to other people who may have come across this video now, and I want to say it again that if you're going to be successful, whether in trading or in whatever other craft you have interest in, you need to devote yourself and you need to make clear choices. Unfortunately, in the area of trading, you can still go as far as making choices on the assets you're trading or currency, currency types or currency pairs you're trading. It's critical for your success. All right, you cannot be trading all the currency pairs that are listed. You will not have direction. And I've said this in my previous video that when you follow some professional traders who have name in this industry, you will discover that they trade, you know, uh, one or they are known for just one or two assets or currency pairs. All right, you can go do your findings. You will discover that they don't just trade randomly. They have assets they focus on. Now, when it comes to trading synthetic indices, there are a lot of lovely assets there. We have STAPE, we have V75, and the rest of it. Okay, my focus has always been on crash and boom, and so I will talk about crash and boom. And if you want to, I'm not stopping you from learning other ones, but please just take this advice. Try and stick with one or two. It doesn't have to be crash and boom, but whatever you want to trade, stay on that one. I've always said this, and let me repeat myself. Your profitability does not depend on the different asset you trade at a time. Okay, you can take one asset, understand where the market is going, and leverage on that asset. All right, so I want to share a very powerful strategy, okay, or powerful observation to say on trading crash and boom. But I want to use crash as a case, study in this video. All right, just like you are seeing, this is actually a live chart. The price are moving, unlike my other videos where I have to freeze so that I don't get interrupted with notifications. So, but it doesn't really matter now. So please pay attention. Like you see, the only indicator I have here is my RSI 6. And I just want to reveal to you the settings now. It's RSI 6, and then the levels are 95, 80, 50, 20, and 5. That's all. And then um, we're back here. So I want to use this opportunity to show you how you can pick your entries, whether for a long term or just to catch the drops. And I think what is very critical in trading crash and boom is entry, because it can drag you, right? Initially, I had introduced a strategy called the EEP, and I even did what we call EP extension. EP is a extensive exhaustion point. It is actually about when the crash moves has been exhausted. For example, when crash is buying and the momentum, the buy momentum is beginning to get less or is almost exhausted, then you're likely going to get a drop. So I did a few, a few simulation, what I will call indicator simulation, and then I tested, and it's still working even till now that I'm doing this video. There are people who are just who have stick with that strategy, and they're okay with it. But what I want to share here will help you, okay, in selling crash. My emphasis has always been sell crash. So I'm going to add a few things that I know some of us are aware of. So first and foremost, look at how my focus will be on the indicator. The indicator will give you an idea of where you're supposed to pick an entry, but there must be other alignment that must come into play. Is that okay? So that's what I want to share. Huh? So you don't need to go necessarily to daily time frame, but one of the things, this is where it really works, and I want you to observe. I hope I don't have. Okay, fine. So now, when you come to your H1, look at the way it is. Zoom level is zoom level 3. And it doesn't show me what I'm looking for. I come to M30, it still doesn't show me what I'm looking for. I come to M15, it it has not really shown me what I'm looking for. So I now come to M5, for example. Okay, all right. But first, before we come to M5, let's come back to H1. Now, please pay attention. Okay, in H1, so let's assume that this part, I'm going to put something on it. Let's assume that all of this last part was not created. We were left with only this one, you know, where I have put that box. Let's assume that all those candles were not formed at that time, right? Let's assume that those candles were not formed. So we are working with this one now, okay? Okay, I think this is today. This is all that have been formed today. So this is today. So let us assume that this was yesterday, and these other ones were not formed, okay? So now, I want you to understand something. Please go and read about other blocks, because other block would help you to know where likely a trade is going to either reverse or is going to begin a movement. So if you check here, you will observe that, okay, so let's assume that this move had happened. Please take note. Uh, let's assume that this move has happened, this particular move. I am looking for this no screenshot brush. Okay. Okay. So the whole of this space where there is a box, we want to assume that it had not happened. So we are working with yesterday. We'll come today. Okay, we'll come for today. So we saw this at this level. Take note, this is H1. We saw this RSI 6 climb up to 80 level. Okay. Your concern is not that it climbed to 80 level, because this thing works with all the time frame. That is from H1 and below. Okay. So that you don't have to wait for too long before the market reacts. Now, if you check, this is a bearish order block where I circle. That was for yesterday. So, but let me explain so I will not confuse you. If you check this, I don't want to go back to this, to the backside. I just want to work with what is available. Now, as soon as this thing climbs to 80, what you need to do, if you see this on H1, what it means is that the buy momentum is highly exhausted before it can climb to 80, right? What you need to do is normally check if this is actually a resistant area, a key resistant area. You can now go back to history. That is, go back to the past to check. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, it didn't go. Okay. If you check, if you go back to history, you will discover that it's almost at we will consider this to be a resistance, this point, you know, where we had this high at this time. This was this was the higher high on H1 as that, the day before this particular day. So we can mark that point. And there's something I'm going to show us too. And so we are expecting that, okay, around this region, we're supposed to have a reaction. And the reaction is supposed to bring down a cell. But don't just take my word for it, okay? One of the things you need to check is first, where is my RSI? If your RSI is at 80 and above, you should begin to look out for sell opportunity. Now, one of the things you will need to do is you can come down to M15 time frame. All right, M15 time frame also. Now, if M15 time frame or M30 also shows you as at the point where you mark. Now, let me go back and explain. Please don't get confused. Let us assume that we circle that. I just hope that thing will stay there. I don't know. Oh, it did not stay. Okay, let me use a box so that it will be easy to understand it. So we have that box there. Now we now go to 15 minutes time frame. If I squeeze this, you will see that, okay, you will see that we have that box at that point. You see that box? This is on M15 now. But we spotted that box using our H1. So now if you check, you will discover that, very good. You will see that this is above 80 on M15 time frame. Anytime you see that happen, maybe you spotted that buy momentum, in H1 time frame, and then you come to M15 and it is still around the RSI is around 82. Okay, and you discover, please take note of this alignment. You discover that that area is likely a support, or it is actually the high, or it's close to the high of the previous, is high of the previous candle, or high of the day, or high of that particular time frame. Okay, then you should start considering picking a sell. I'm going to explain something better than this. Okay, just follow me. Then you have to pick a sell at that point. Now take note, it does not necessarily mean that when you pick the sell, you should allow it to run forever. What it means is that when you pick that sell, you're expecting some drops. So I can call that place point of interest. When you see that kind of scenario where the RSI 6, the RSI 6 is at 80 level, maybe on H1. So yeah, on H1. Then you come to M15. You can also find a similar thing like what you have here. When you now go to a smaller time frame, sorry, in the H1 time frame, you see that it is around that region. So it means that the RSI 6 is at 80 on H1, and also maybe on even M30 is around that area. Look at it on M30, the same thing, on M15, the same thing. It means that the RSI has agreed. So you should be looking out for a sell at that level. Okay, look out for a sell. So you just place your sell and wait. At that point, the buy momentum is reducing. Now, don't forget that it is important at this point to note, however, the order flow of the entire, of that particular asset. The order flow represents the overall direction, the overall trend of the market, which is also very critical. Please go read about order flow and order block. But very importantly, make sure that your entry is around order block. Now, let me explain why that order block concept is important at this point. Now, look at this. So let's say, so that happened yesterday, all right? So we have taken that trade. We would have taken that trade, okay? And it would have dropped, whatever. But remember that your RSI 6 at 80 is very important, it's key. Now, so we come for today. Let me take out this now. Now, when price returned to that zone, okay, look at that area now. Okay, right? This particular bullish candle, this one here that I circled first, this one is a bearish order block. That was what you know, gave this sell move, that led to this sell move. All right, this particular sell move. So price is returning back to that order block area. And then when that happens, please take note. When that happens, one of the things I will do is if I come to H1 like this, and I notice that at this point where I am doing this circle, this thing is not at 80. I will not bother. The most significant thing is that it is at a zone where price is supposed to react, giving us a sell opportunity. What I will do is, since I can't find the RSI at 80 on my H1, I will now go to a smaller time frame. So what I do is I will mark these points now. That thing will be deleted. Okay, let me just see if it's there. Okay, so I will now go to a smaller time frame. When I go to a smaller time frame, look at that point I'm talking about. Look at that point. Look, this is close to 80, and that's the point. So since I have come to a smaller time frame, if I even go to 15 minutes time frame, it could have, okay, that's 15 minutes time frame. That's it. Now look at it. So you see, look at that's 15 minutes time frame. So this is around 80 level. You know, this is the new level now. This is around 80 level. And it's not just about the indicator now. That's why I said you don't just work with the indicator alone. The indicator is supposed to give you an idea of where you're supposed to put your interest, or put your eye on. So having seen that this thing has gotten to this point, the indicator has given you an idea that okay, the buy momentum has been highly intense, but it's beginning to lose the momentum, push. And so apart from that, there is it is in an other block area, you know, an other block area which we just spotted. So at that point, why you're not taking the trade is not just because of the fact that it's an other block area, it's because the RSI 2 has also given you a sign that it is actually in an over overbought region. And so you begin to look for sell. Now take note, when you place that sell, it's going to it's going to dance around for a while. And then if you stay on, it's going to drop massively. It's going to drop massively. And that's what actually happened. Okay? If you check from that point, it dropped down. Now, if you calculate the number of pips, maybe from here you make your entry, you will discover that your stop loss is going to be very tight. And then you drag this point. That is about 76 points. So if you use one lot, you make $76. That is if you have the patience to hold it. But if you don't have, just take whatever you can take and go away. Wait for another opportunity. What you're waiting for is allow price to always get back to that area. Now, what is supposed to give you a pointer to where you're supposed to pick your entry or become interested is when your RSI, maybe in M15 or M30, is at 80. When it gets to 80, you should be very careful. Remember, the first thing I said is that you need to determine the order flow, or let's use the word, the overall momentum. And that you can do using your daily time frame. Just check where the trade or the overall direction is going. There are a lot of patterns that can help you determine where the market is going generally. But what I'm sharing with you is where you're supposed to pick an entry, having known where the market is going. Now, we have what we call divergences. Like this, what is happening here? Price is creating higher highs on this H4, and then my oscillator is creating lower highs. So this is a regular bearish divergence we're seeing here. Okay, so if price breaks this one, so when you see that regular bearish divergence is a pointer that the market is going to sell. But if you want to wait for you want to wait for the protocol of validity for regular bearish divergence to completely play out, then you will not even make an entry on this trade at all. You will have to wait for it to break the higher low trend line and retest it before you can pick an entry. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. You have to wait for these points, this trend line to be taken out, broken and retested before you can now pick your entry. But if you don't want to wait for that, there are other opportunities then you cannot pick your early entry based on what I've just shared now. So this is a typical example of what I'm explaining. If you want to wait for the protocol of validity for this particular pattern, the regular bearish divergence, then you will have to wait for it to break out of this higher low trend line and retest. Something like this must happen. It must break, retest before coming down. I've taught this in my previous video. But we don't want to this. We don't want to wait for this pattern. We want to start picking those drops. And if you're going to pick that drop, then you are going to make use of that indicator. And then also take note that this is actually a very strong resistance area. So if price will ever get back there, check what your RSI is doing. If it is at 80 level, if your RSI is at 80 level, and then you check that, you also see that it looks like it's close to another block area, whether it is for a boom or for crash, and maybe it's even a strong resistance. Please take yourself very well. Don't wait for a pattern in this case. You just want to catch the drops and then off you go. Okay, so we can say that, okay, by and large, this is going to sell in the long run. But before the real sale begins, you can pick the drops, and you can do that with the help of this indicator. Okay, now let me show you something that I feel is very important at this point too. There's something we call the daily high candle strategy, daily close of candle, daily high, and all of that. That can also help you forecast where the market is going and where you're supposed to, put your money. So let's see. I'm going to use another example. So let's see. This is what you do in the morning. Every time, so that it will help you. This will also help you to pick to pick those drops and those spikes. So I come to daily time frame and I enlarge my screen. What I'll do is I want to do this. This is what I want to consider. I want to find, this is daily high, previous daily high, and then I will mark where it closed, the last candle. I'm not interested in the daily low. Okay, I will just stop here. Okay, something like that. All right, then I will now come to H4. You see that? You see what I just showed you now? You see those lines? Every time price gets closer to that line, those previous daily highs and close or open, depending on the candle you're working with, there is definitely going to be a serious reaction. Now, if you observe, there is always reaction as price gets closer to those lines. So what you do is that make sure it aligns with what your RSI 6 is telling you. Now let's go to another asset so that you understand better what I'm saying. Let's work with, that was crash 500. Let's go to crash 1000. Okay, so this is crash 1000. Now this one is far off. There is no doubt that this may sell, but that's not our interest. This is far off. We go to, okay, let's go to M15, for example. Okay, now look at this particular example here. Look at this particular example, this one that is in front of us. If you check what is happening here, you will see that this is at 80 and this one is at this price. Now look at something. I'm going to try to mark that square because there is something I want us to learn from this one. So I'm going to give it, just put this sign here so that we can look at it later. Now, that's what looks very close. And then we'll come to H1. See what happened with H1. Even when it was at that point, this was not close to 80. This was not at 80, but it was very close to 80. It was almost the highest, the highest in that region. All of it was the highest, but not at 80. So the probability for a sell to happen is still high. But I'm saying, for you to be very sure, allow it to touch the 80 line before you can make decision. But even at that, even if when it touches 80 line, please don't jump on the trade. There are other things you need to check out for. All right, like other block, is it actually at a resistance? Okay, are there signs of rejections? Candlestick rejection sign before I can pick the sell. Now look at something. Look at what I'm going to do now. Okay. Okay, I just want to share with you that concept I explained earlier. So this is a daily candle. That's a daily candle. I think I need to remove these ones so that everything will be clear. So I want to do this again. So here, that's the previous daily high. And then we come here where it closes. So I may just decide to stay there. Or maybe I could just add this one. I'm not always interested in the low. Okay. So after that, I come to my H4. Right. Now, you see what happened there? Those area where I marked, where I placed those horizontal line, are areas of where price is likely going to react. For example, this thing was buying. This is even H4. As soon as it got to that line, there was a serious reaction. Now, this is H4, right? Okay. This is H4, right? Let me even go to H1. This is H1 now. This is where this candle started forming from today. Okay. Every time, price got to that line, take note, I'm drawing this line from what happened yesterday, from the daily. Then I now came to smaller time frame. Every time price came to that line, around that line, it must react, something must happen. Every time it got to that line, something must happen. Every time it got to that line, there must be a reaction. Now, let me share something here. If it's not able to break this line as it were, okay, break this line and continue to go up, it's dancing within it's dancing within this last line. This is the previous high. It has not been able to break completely and give us reason why it should push higher to this point. Then our focus will be on selling it. Now, why it is here, the next thing that will happen is that you can come check this later tomorrow after watching this video, or just check later. This will certainly come back to this point. If it now breaks below this point and closes, it may, I'm not saying it must, it may likely keep coming down. So, but the focus is, if you want to catch those drops or know area where you're supposed to place your sell, be very sensitive to this horizontal line, having picked or having drawn them from the daily high and the daily close or the daily open or the daily low. And then you come to smaller time frame and then you fix it. All right, and then you check out for where you're supposed to pick your entry. Now, it's even more easier if these things happen in such a way that your RSI is at 80. If your RSI is at 80 points and price is almost close to any of this, horizontal line, please be rest assured that that point is a serious point of interest. You should consider selling. The same thing applies to boom. I may not have time to go over boom, but don't forget that some of these things may give you headache if you violate to understand where the market is going on a higher time frame. You need to understand that. You must not work, just with this alone. Let me see if I can see something. Now, for those of us who understand, there is basically a bearish flag pattern on daily. All right, there is a bearish flag pattern on daily. Okay, if you even come to weekly, it is still showing. So the possibility of it to come down is very, very what? Is very high. So, but if you see that, if you understand that, okay, I know that in the long term it's going to sell, and this is the reason, then anytime price gets to this, marked area, it's going to react. Now look at it. This is even H4. After marking it, you notice that anytime price got here, for example, look at what happened here. You know, you know, it started dropping. As soon as price got to that point, it reacted and all of that. So please, I'm going to do an updated version of this video. I just hope this will help us. I have tested it. It's working. It's crazy. I'm not mixing words. It's okay. It's just that you need to be patient. Allow your RSI to get to 80 level. Make sure there is one or two alignment. RSI at 80, check that it is at a resistance level or is close to one of these horizontal lines that you would have drawn from daily. And then you pick your trade at that point. Always use stop loss. Please, Always use what? Stop loss. Maybe 10 pip stop loss when you pick your entry and just allow it. If you have one or two drop, it's fine. If you do this with crash 1000 and crash 500, it will go a long way to help you. The goal is not to become a millionaire in one day, it's to make consistent profit no matter how small going forward. I really hope that this video will help you. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. And let me add, sometimes doing trial and error will not help you. You can ask questions directly. There is a link where you can reach out to me on Telegram. You can be part of the mentorship program. And I'm saying this for record purposes. Let us stick with what really works or what is giving us money, no matter how small. Not something that is complicated. To have advanced knowledge on trading is amazing. It's lovely. Knowledge is wonderful, and I subscribe to even more knowledge. But I'm saying if you know that there is something that works, put your energy to make it better. Find out why it's not working at this time and try to correct it so that you can. That's how you attain mastery. Mastery is not gotten by being too involved or being involved with too many things at the same time. Pick one or two things. A man called Stephen R. Covey, who wrote Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, said, if you focus your energy, your attention on one thing, and you give 2 hours of your time daily, on that thing you have interest in, that if you do that 2 hours every day for 2 years, you become a genius in that area or in that interest or in whatever it is you are doing. So that's the same challenge I'm passing on to you. Put your attention on one or two assets. Learn why you're failing. Learn why you are not getting it right. And guess what? If you do that faithfully, and you are promising yourself, I'm not going to leave this asset. I want to understand and master it. I bet you, 1 to 3 months, you'll be better off. Your losses will reduce because you will not be distracted looking for, asset and opportunities to trade here and there. Just focus on one or two assets, and the rest will be testimony. So that's what I want to, advise us to do. Pick one or two assets, master it, stay there, make all your mistakes, but stay there. Consistency pays. If you're constantly learning and willing to continue learning, you definitely succeed. So if you want to be part of the mentorship community or program, please feel free to use the description. Get on me, chat me up. I can do this. I can explain. I also run a VIP mentorship, one-on-one mentorship, where I get to teach you, where I get to explain things to you very personal. There is more. There is more to learn, and there is more you can do. I wish you well, and thank you very much. Cheers.